right, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. We are back for another installment of PG Live. Once again, we've got Andrew Impalazzo and Brian Rush with us, and I am Jason Petzel.
What's up, guys and
Hello.
girls?
Welcome in, guys and girls. Well, guys, this is the Premier Grilling Roundtable. We broadcast every Tuesday night at 8:30 and also every Thursday night at 8:30 with a special guest on the Thursday night edition. Tonight, we're going to be talking ribs, all kinds of things about ribs, the ins, the outs, the details, the types of cookers, the different rubs, sauces, lack thereof. We're going to go through a whole bunch. It's all about ribs tonight. And me and Andrew both spent some time brushing up on some ribs this weekend, just getting another run through and trying out some new things that we're going to share with you guys today. Be sure to check in with us on Thursday. We've got a surprise guest coming in on Thursday. We'll announce that to all the people that are following our Twitch broadcast, our Facebook, Instagram, everywhere else. So before we get started on ribs, let's do a quick sounder here. And for all of you that are not following us on our text program, text PG Live to 41411, and that'll get you all the special deals involved with the Twitch broadcast. We're going to do all kinds of special deals and special announcements only for our stream followers. So if you want to be part of that, make sure you subscribe. Again, that's PG Live to 41411. And of course, follow us on all our social media as well. So let's go ahead and get into it a little bit. We do have a few quick updates as it relates to the COVID-19 stuff. We still do have 3 out of 4 stores opening. There's a good chance that the South Lake store will be opening up here soon too. We'll make sure to keep you up as soon as that's final, but it looks like we're going to be able to open it up here in the next couple of weeks, at least for some limited traffic and kind of get back to some regular business. But for those of y'all that have time on Thursday, we'll see you at 8:30 as well. And if you have any questions throughout the broadcast, make sure to put them in the chat. We will get to all the questions and make sure that we answer anything. This is going to be a more technical show, so there may be a few more questions about specific things. We'll make sure we get to everybody. But let's start over here with Andrew. For me, ribs is just one of my go-tos. I can be done in 4 to 6 hours. I know I can feed a lot of people. I can put a whole lot of those on the smoker. So I love doing pork ribs, whether it be baby backs, whether it be spares, and even beef ribs, but that's a bigger commitment, obviously. You're really getting into it with those. But let's start there. What's your favorite cut of ribs, Andrew?
I'd have to say for the longest time, I loved to do baby back ribs, right? That was like my thing. But now 100% St. Louis cut. I think it's really the only way to go, in my opinion. The inconsistency on baby back ribs kind of jacks with you. Like, you don't really know how much time you're going to have to dedicate until you like literally get it out of the package and like, oh my God, this thing has like half a loin on it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, really, like sometimes, they're like that thick. You're like, okay, this is a commitment. I really like St. Louis cut ribs, man. And I love to get them at places where you can get like compact Durac ribs, so a little bit more, heritage breed. They're smaller actually, but
the flavor is amazing, though.
Yeah, 100%. Worth every penny.
Yeah, those heritage breeds, I don't jump on them too often, but man, when you do, you taste the difference. There's no doubt about it. There's just something, just a deeper, better flavor, just like buying a prime, a prime ribeye or something like that. It's just a lot better flavor all around.
100%. They cook quicker. They cook differently than, like your big old, ones from Kroger or whatever, but there's just something about them, man. They're pretty phenomenal. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna show a video today showing the spare rib prep. So I think one of the biggest things that we get questions about is how to pull the membrane on the back, or even that they don't even realize that you should pull the membrane. So we'll talk about why, how to do it. I've got a method I learned by going out to the American Royal every year. It's my annual trip, and just I glean something from those guys every single year, no matter who it is. There's guys from all over the country, all over the world for that matter, cooking out there. And if you pay attention, everybody's got a different way. Like they say, you ask 100 barbecuers how to do one thing, they'll each tell you a different way to do it. and it's really true. So a lot of these things are ways we like to do it. It's not necessarily the way. There are some tenets that you need to stick with, pulling the membrane. To me, that's a no-brainer. Cutting it to where it's more consistent, it's a no-brainer, and then just getting enough time to get it tender. All of those things have to happen. Outside of that, it's the art that you want to do. What flavors do you want? What smoke do you want on there? What are you cooking on? There's a lot of variables, but ribs are really not that difficult to do if you just follow a few things. And much like brisket, when it's not done, it's not tender. If it's not tender yet, keep going. You're probably just 30 minutes to 45 minutes away, and they're gonna be bite off the bone, fall off the bone, tender, which we'll address as well. Um, Jason, just let me know when you're pretty close to that video, and we'll start there. And until then, we can talk about baby backs. I'm kind of with you on the baby backs, man. What I don't like about the baby backs is that big lean. How and when you're cutting them, they're not always straight. You'll have some that seem like they cross over, so you can't always get good cuts. If you're trying to present it out and do pictures like we always are, you're not always going to get the best ones, and you just get a lot of waste in there. But I do like it if you're going to really cook them far and shred them out and make tacos or something like that. I like a baby back for that. But for me, spares all the way. I mean, the flavor's better. I really dig it.
I just I'm with you, like in terms of like the presentation. It's like even if I'm making them for my family, like I want my cuts to be perfect. I want everything to look right. You know what I mean? If it's all like jacked up and you got like one that's like this and then one that's like this, and then it's like there's like bone touching bone, and yeah, how are you supposed to cut through that, right? So it's like you have to kind of
tearing up my knives, man.
Yeah, no doubt. It definitely jacks it up.
Yeah,
And if you try to glaze them and then to cut them up, you're either cutting blind or you're losing your glaze on the cutting board, to like get on the bone the bone line, right?
No kidding at all. Well, and one of the things I don't like as well is when you buy baby backs, a lot of times they come with the membrane pulled, and a lot of people like that, but I like to pull the membrane just so I know that that's done, and so I can show it. I take videos and pictures of all kinds of things. I want to show the membrane being pulled, and especially I think Costco is one of the ones that's notorious for when you buy the baby backs, they have no membrane on the back. Hey, if you're trying to prep a bunch of them, that's great. Save you a lot of time. But we're going to show you how you pull that membrane in, just a matter of seconds. So
it's pretty painless.
Yeah,
it really is. Once you get it.
I remember that first competition we did years ago, and like you and Dan, and like everybody was taking turns like trying to get that membrane up, and it was so difficult. And it really isn't that difficult. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it over to the clip from this weekend. And this one actually didn't even come off clean, and it still took 20 seconds, So so you've got a knife. I think next up you'll pull out a fork, and that's it.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of tools. I mean, basically a sharp knife, but that's really for just trimming up some of the little errant pieces that are floating around in there. I like to, these are pretty squared off, so I don't really mess with the edges. If I had been cutting this down from a full spare and I was turning them into St. Louis, and for those of you guys that don't know, you notice how this is very squared off. It's a rectangle. If it were a full spare, you'd have this big D-shaped piece coming off the top of that, and it's a great piece to cut off and keep and smoke it with your ribs, because it's gonna make some great meat you can shred out for tacos, but it's not great for just hand eating. But as you're going through, once you've gotten rid of the errant pieces that are hanging off, they're going to just turn to burnt crust anyway. Just flip over, and I use the fork to just kind of work your way in. There's actually two membranes, and you want to get in between the two membranes. Sometimes you'll get in there and you're actually getting under the second membrane, and you notice as you see the video there, you see these little lines that are under there. Once you pull that first membrane, that's when you know it's done. When you see that, you've gotten between the two membranes, and that's where you want to be. What I like to do is a method that Christopher Marks from Three Little Pigs taught me a few years back at the American Royal, is to work from the middle. I was always taught to work from one end and try to work your way out, but we prepped, I think, 40 or 50 racks of ribs in a short period of time, and all we were doing is just get in there and then just work your finger down, just kind of like you would do with a turkey or a chicken, if you're putting something underneath the skin, you just want to work your finger through there. And once you get all the way through, just lift up and the whole thing will come off. And you notice I had a little trouble. Part of the piece didn't come off. That's what you got your paper towels for. They'll give you some good grip. Just at that point, it's pretty easy. Grab that last piece, pull it off, and you're done. You don't have to worry about getting the membrane up underneath the pieces you can't really see. That's whatever's under there is under there, and it's not coming out. So don't sweat that at all. Now, the next step that
I was going to say, as you're seasoning, so the forks in between the bones, kind of what's the purpose for that?
So a couple of purposes for that is, one, when you poke with the fork, you want to poke 3 times in between each bone. I do it after the rub because inadvertently it's going to send a little bit of that rub down into the meat. But the main purpose for that is really just to bit up, the same as you would do when you're like doing a jacquard on a brisket or something. You're just breaking up some of the fibers. It's going to help them pull off the bone a little bit better later on in the cook. And then that's all you got to do. But definitely make sure you always put your rub on the back side, because if you think about it, and this comes from competition more than anything, somebody's going to pick up that rib and they're going to take a bite of it. Well, their tongue is on the bottom, and that's where they're going to have all the taste. So don't skimp on the flavor on the bottom of that rib. Whatever you put on the top, put it on the bottom, because that's the first flavor they're going to get in their mouth. So you definitely want to have every bit of that there. But after that, there's really not a lot left to do. You want to season on a rib, not super heavy, not brisket heavy, not pork butt heavy or something like that. More like what you would do on something like a chicken breast, a little closer to that, maybe a little heavier. But you want to cover it, but you'd like to be able to see the marbling of the meat through your rub. If you can't see it at all, you've probably gone a little bit too heavy. Ribs don't need a lot. They're not super thick. You want to be able to taste the rib. So don't go too heavy. I call that maybe a medium shake is something I'm throwing on there. Whereas a brisket would be a heavy shake, a pork shoulder would be a heavy shake. So go less than that for sure. And then after that, I like to let them sit for a little, not too long, but just a little bit before they go on the smoker. Essentially, I've started my smoker first, then I come do my rib prep, and then I go back out and level out my smoker, make sure I'm maintaining perfect, get some thin blue smoke, make sure we're set up good there, and then I'm taking them out. And they're either going to sit, if it's going to be a while, I'll go ahead and throw them back in the fridge because I want them as cold as possible before they go on the smoker, but never frozen. That way they spend a little bit more time getting smoke penetration. Quick tip for everybody: meats only absorb smoke flavor up to 140 degrees internal temperature. So once you're past 140 degrees internal temperature on your meat, you're just putting smoke on the outside. And if you've ever had bitter, kind of nasty tasting barbecue, but it looked like it was cooked perfectly, it was probably that. It was either some dirty smoke or too much smoke after that 140 degree point. So if you're putting some fresh wood on, put that at the beginning. That's when it's going to have its effect. After that, your charcoal and your wood is nothing but a heat source. So don't worry that much about it past that point. And it's not like you're going to be taking a temp on your pork ribs or whatever, but you kind of have an idea when you get there. It's when they really start to get some bark and look like they've got something going on. At that point, it's you're not imparting any more smoke into that meat. So let it go after that, and don't over season them. Let's see. We've got a question from PG Austin. Inject some ribs? ? PG Austin, I would never inject ribs. I've heard of people doing it before. I can't say that I really understand why. There's not a lot of room in there. I just don't know where that would go or what it would do. Ribs have plenty of moisture and plenty of tenderness all by themselves. I don't know that I'd ever go that route. So if you got any other reason as to why, chime in, but I'm not sure why anybody would do that. So, Andrew, what do you think about the prep? Do you do anything different than that?
No, I mean, I think I pretty much do it the same way. Maybe sometimes I'll do them ahead of time, but I like to let that. So I'll season them a little bit, maybe a little bit less than what you were saying before, right? Just season them a little bit. And I like to let them sit for like 5 minutes and sweat a little bit. And then once they sweat, then I add a little bit more, because I don't use, we were talking about this maybe a little earlier, I don't use any binder, right? So some people will put mustard on there and rub it out, and that's totally okay. But I feel like every time, and maybe it's because I put too much on there, but I felt like it gets gummy. You know what I mean? Like I think the seasoning it sometimes gets a little gummy. So I think that most meats that you're going to smoke anyway will that salt in the rub will suck that moisture, have it sitting up top. So it's a perfect binder to hold more stuff in. I don't think it needs any mustard, but I'll do that. Let it sit, get my smoker ready, and then they're on. That's it. I don't even think about it. Whether it's pellet grill or my Kamado Joe, I'm the same thing. I'm just, it'll probably take about the same amount of time, maybe a little less on the pellet grill, but
yeah,
straight up pretty easy.
You bring up two important points. One about the binder. I think a lot of people have learned to do ribs and other things with mustard. And now if you're going to do mustard, straight yellow mustard, French's, plain old stuff. Don't get into Dijon mustard and things like that. You're really going to mess with your flavor profiles if you try to do that. So if you're going to do mustard, straight, regular French's mustard, plain old regular hot dog stuff. You never know what's going to happen with these Dijons and all the different things in there when they actually get heated up that way. That stuff was meant to go on sandwiches. It wasn't necessarily meant to go on barbecue. So thinking about that. But the other point is ribs and almost anything, no matter what you're cooking on, you're going to change. You have a few variables that are going to change out, but ribs are one that no matter what you're cooking on, I haven't noticed any real difference in the way I set up anything, the temperatures I cook at necessarily or anything like that. They pretty much just go. So pellets, Kamados, pit smokers, you name it, your Weber kettle, whatever you're cooking on, just make sure you've got offset heat and you're doing barbecue.
Yeah, I don't cook differently in terms of heat. I usually float around like 250. I feel like that's kind of a good temp. I might fluctuate a little bit on what wood I use, depending on what's sitting around. But I'm like either apple or pecan usually. Maybe a little maybe a little pecan or cherry, but I just pretty much keep my pellet grill loaded with pecan pellets, so I don't have to think about whatever I'm cooking. It'll work. I don't have to swap out my pellets. But I just kind of I think it's just fun to play with a little bit. Some different types of wood when you're doing ribs, just to see what you like better.
And they take most of them. Mesquite might be one of the only ones I've never really tried. I like a mixture of pecan and cherry. I really like the color that cherry puts on any kind of pork. Hell, I just love the smell of cherry, man. If I was to take one wood and just burn it in my backyard, it'd be cherry. Just smell that. We did some apple this weekend because I was out of cherry, and the flavor of that is just different. You smell it, you can tell. I love to add a little fruit wood in, but my base is always pecan. That's a good Southern flavor, and it's mild enough to where you're not going to overpower it like a hickory might. I've known people that have done mesquite. I don't know about that one on ribs.
I don't know, man.
Don't mix with me.
But I'll tell you, I think I have had at Tyler's out in West Texas, Amarillo, I think it is. He's 100% mesquite, and he made some pretty awesome ribs, man. I mean, he's in the top 50 for a reason, and those were really good ribs.
You know what he's probably doing?
He uses mesquite.
He's probably letting it burn down the coals so he's not overpowering it. I would bet you he's getting a good coal fire. Plenty of flavor.
Yeah, I love mesquite, but I don't know about if I cooked mesquite on pork, I would murder it. This guy knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. So I think kudos to him, because I was kind of like, whoa, what do you? He's like, I only use mesquite. I mean, he's in West Texas. I mean, West Texas mesquite is pretty much the bomb, right? So
that's what you got, man.
Right.
Well, I think what you just have to realize, if you're going to use mesquite, no matter what you're cooking, your window of opportunity is much smaller. If you go too long, bitter, nasty, you get a lot of people that have reactions to mesquite where they get acid reflux. Some of that happens as well, but generally that's because of over smoking, and it's all on the outside, and it caused that problem. But I can definitely see that. It's not my flavor. To me, mesquite is steaks, chicken breasts, things like that, quick cooks, direct grilling. That's where I use my mesquite.
I don't mind.
So
cutting
on the
go ahead. I don't mind using it like in on a brisket or something like that if I'm using it with something else. But I think you have, again, like if you're dependent, I mean, I'm always cooking on probably a ceramic grill, so I'll like add like one chunk of mesquite and then maybe oak or pecan, you know, like,
Yeah.
but I want that. I want a little bit of that like intense smoke that mesquite gives, but I don't want it to like be all I taste. Because you will burp up mesquite smoke. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
You will
It's
100%
never good
taste.
the second way. So we talked a little bit about what we were cooking on. Let's go into a little bit more specific about cooking on certain types of grills, temperatures, and different variables that between those things there. So you mentioned a couple that you're cooking on. Give us the kind of the rundown of what you got going.
On my pellet grill, I'm like 250.
Mm-hmm.
KJ, same thing, 250. But I'm like, it depends on the rib, like, because sometimes I feel like, you know, just like anything you barbecue, you know, I'm going by where it looks. So
Sure.
you know what, you know, to kind of while I'm doing it, like, um, Grillmaster 59 was saying he sees the question on the forums regarding 3-2-1 method. Do you guys use foil at all? I will use foil or butcher paper, but 2 hours is like, in my opinion, for that is too much. Like they'll fall apart on you unless you do like 1 hour and then you're wrapping for two. They get like you won't even be able to pick up the ribs; they'll fall apart. And I don't
Yeah.
mind a clean bone, but I mean, like I wrap for like if I wrap a rack of ribs, it's like for 30 or 45 minutes.
I'm with
Just
you
to
there.
steam it a
Let's
little
talk
bit.
about the 3-2-1 method because I think that's where a lot of people start, and that's a great thing to talk about. So everyone, first, if you've ever looked up how to cook ribs, how to barbecue ribs, you've probably come across the 3-2-1 method. And what that is three hours in the smoke, 2 hours wrapped in something, and an hour outside the wrap. It's a great guide to start with. Now, I will tell you, I don't remember the last time my ribs took 6 hours to start with. So you want to adjust. This is a guideline. It is not a rule. There are very few rules in barbecue. It's just this gets you started. For me, I'm about 2 to 2.5 hours of smoke. And if I'm gonna wrap, I like to wrap with butcher paper as opposed to foil. And I'm gonna wrap them for about an hour. And then I'm gonna spend the rest of the time, however long that may be, whether that's an hour or even 2 hours, they're gonna spend outside of that wrap. And if I'm putting any sauce on, that's when I'm gonna start doing that about every 15 to 30 minutes. I'm gonna hit it with that and let it cook on there. I don't want a sloppy, like saucy rib. If it's got rib flavor, if it's got barbecue sauce flavor, butter, honey, any of that, I want it cooked on so you can just pick it up and eat it.
I
So that's
agree. I
3-2-1.
100%. That I think the 2-1-1, in my opinion, has been the most consistent cooks. Um, it usually like because you know in that last hour, like, are they ready to come off? Because you can see them, as opposed to that 2 hours wrapped where they're just like, I mean, they're just you might as well boil them, in my opinion, if you're going
Yeah.
that long.
Well, that's what
Seriously,
they're doing.
like
They're steaming in there. They're
I mean,
steaming.
so
That's what they're doing.
completely. So they're just gonna fall apart. So I'm with you. Like 1 hour max if I'm gonna wrap, but 2-1-1 is usually where I roll with ribs too. It just seems like they're always done at that point. You know, like
Yeah, they pretty much
they're
are.
yeah.
Now let's talk about what's done on the bris or on a rib. Some people want to they always want to go to temperature. Look, on ribs, temperature's out the window. Forget temperature. What you have to do with ribs, it comes with feel, and then there's one test I really like to do. I like to take the tongs on one end of the rib, and I like to bend them up. So you're basically taking if you guys can see me on the camera, you want to take the ribs and you want to bend them upwards. If they get a good bend to them, that's real easy. They're darn close, if not done already. The other tip that it'll give you is when the rib starts to pull back from the or when the meat starts to pull back from the bone, and you start to get that 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of a bone sticking out. That's the meat seizing up, and it's starting to contract there, and it's leaving that bone open. That's when you're close to done as well. So you've got a couple of tips there to tell you when you're getting close. Other than that, I mean, unless I don't know that I have any other tips to tell you when ribs are done, other than just give them a go.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right there. Like people will say, like, "Oh, how much a 1/2 inch? How much?" Like, think about maybe a thumbnail, unless you have
There
like
you go. Thumbnail's good.
like
That's a
a
good guide.
thumbnail down, or maybe a little bit more, depending on how big they are, right? But a thumbnail is a good way. But the bend is, um, one PG Austin actually taught me about the bend. So the bend I think
Nicely
is like
done,
the
Austin.
best way to do it, right? So
I agree.
you'll know, like, too, you'll know if you overdid your ribs at that point too, because they'll just break in half.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you're gonna
You're like,
end up and you got half the rib in
all
your
right,
tongs.
they're done. Let's eat. Or they were done about an hour ago, but we
Yeah.
got a little busy. That's usually what happens at Premier Grilling. We usually, as soon as the food's about to come off, everybody comes in.
Sure.
And you're like, okay,
No,
great,
it happens
thanks.
at
I haven't seen anybody
my
all day,
house,
but
too.
now my food's ready, and you're here. But I love you. Thank you
Yep.
for coming in.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, this is how it goes at the house too. I mean,
Well,
we're cooking all day long. There's just a different reason why we forget about them.
Yeah.
But you know, so some good Miller Lite kind of keep you going, you know. But
yeah, no, I was gonna. I wish I had the picture ready to share. So the other day, we knew the ribs were going to take a little bit, you know. So we threw a New York strip on, like a prime New York strip, at about 3 o'clock. That was our appetizer, you know. And so
There you
we
go.
actually
Meat
had some
appetizer.
pictures, man. We had some pictures of that too. Like I said, I wish I had those queued up and ready to go. I would have shared it there. But I do want to reset here for a second because we now have Mike G joining us. What's
Hey,
up, Mike?
nice to you to
What's
join
up, Mikey?
us
The
tonight.
other
Up, guys?
the other thing, I just wanted to go back because I noticed we've got some new people on tonight, names that I don't recognize. So I just want to remind them to text PG Live to 41411. Just yesterday, everybody who's already subscribed to this got a text message for 10% off fuel, accessories, rubs. So text PG Live to 41411. Tomorrow morning, I'll make sure to send out a text message to you so you can come in, get a discount. You can call us up for curbside pickup if you'd prefer. But we'll get you that discount on those things right there. Like I said, fuel, accessories, and rubs. Thank you for joining us. We're having fun with this. Hope you're enjoying watching it. And with that said, we'll jump back into rib talk, and hopefully you might learn another thing or two from us today.
Mike, you probably missed a whole lot of what we were talking about here, man. But you know, we've been talking ribs, and more ribs. We've gone through 3-2-1 method. We've gone through wrapping and not wrapping. You know, binders, how heavy you put the seasoning, what racks we like. What's your general method? Like, do you go spare ribs over baby backs, or do you like them both? What's your go-to process on ribs?
I like
ribs,
baby back. Baby backs are my
All
favorite.
right. Well, good. Then let's talk some baby backs, because me and Andrew are spare guys, you know. So let's go with that. And I don't mean it like that. Me and Andrew are a couple spares. So what do you got on the babies?
I mean, honestly, it's just I just kind of like the flavor a little bit more of the meat on my end. You know, spare ribs are great, but I've grown up with baby back ribs. My grandfather used to have a stick burner that he had. I think it was Irving High School build him. It was about
Nice.
25. It was about 2,500 pounds. That thing was huge. It was so damn heavy, and so he liked them, and so it's just been one of those things where it just you know, as you grow up, you're like, I just love this. I love this. Man, I prefer this better because it clicks in with a memory of going, man, I remember Easter Sunday eating a shitload of baby back ribs.
Oh yeah. Well, don't get me wrong. I'll put them down, man. Don't get me wrong on that. But you know, I think for me that where it's kind of gone towards the spares has had more to do with competitions. You know, when you don't do baby backs in competitions, they only do spares. So, you know, you kind of start to perfect your spare, and you know, baby backs are just kind of for family and friends and for fun. You know, but I think I've grown attached to the spares, and I'm kind of not over the baby backs, but I'm going that route every time for the most part.
See, I think the spare, just seeing, like you said, about competitions, and sometimes I just, you know, it's like, oh, it's not the perfect rib. You know, did I get it perfect? You know, it's like, you know, I did it my method. I did it the way I like it. It came out great. Ribs are one of those things that You know, some people tell you if you pull that bone all the way out and it's clean, oh, you've overcooked them. It's got to have a bite. It's got to have a tear. It's like, I don't like that. I kind of like my bone to come all the way out and just.
You want to pull it out and have a McRib, right? I mean, you just,
exactly.
And that's the thing. If you've got a really, really well cooked, let's say well cooked, let's just say really, really cooked rib that you can get a clean slide of that bone out. Some people will call that overcooked, you know, but you can go to an IBCA competition, and when that happens, you might win. You go to a Kansas City Barbecue Society competition, you're out, because it's all about how they judge it. So this is specific to competitions. At home, I find that most people like the clean bone, you know, probably because they've never had a real bite off the bone, perfect rib. I think if they had that, they'd realize that's so close to it without it all falling out in their plate. But in a competition, if you're going to Kansas City Barbecue Society, you've got to be able to pick that rib up. They get one bite. You darn near need to be able to form a denture out of the bite that comes off of that rib, and there better be a clean bone behind that bite. But you go to an IBCA or a Lone Star Barbecue Society, they're grabbing that thing and they have to eat it with a plastic fork and a plastic knife, and they have to cut a piece off of that. So if it will slide off the bone and shred up, they are ecstatic and you'll get high marks. So if you are going to do competition, you know, pay attention to that, because if you don't know what they're looking for, it's hard to hit the target. So the best thing if you ever get into competitions is go take a judging class. Go volunteer to judge at a local competition. Just get a feel. And Jason, you came to that one with me for the Camp Craig, or no, what was that one? That was a Steve Mayberry cook-off we did.
Yeah, up in Carrollton.
Yeah, and you got to be a judge in that one. I mean, what surprised you about that? There was some, as far as what you saw there, and it's okay. I mean, I know one of the things you're going to say.
What
Go ahead and
surprised
say it.
me was, like there were only 2 or 3 out of the 30 we judged. There were only 2 or 3 that I would have considered a good rib. Like, you know, good seasoning, good bark. You know, a lot of them weren't that good. They really weren't. I mean, I'm a little spoiled. I've had a lot of good ribs over the years. I'll give
you that.
in and around Premier Grilling for its entire existence, and so there's a lot of guys there that can make some really good ribs. And so even in a competition, there's a lot of people there that are just there for fun and whatnot, and more power to them, because it is a lot of fun to do a competition.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you know, I mean, there were some decisions cooks made that I would have done differently.
Like lighter fluid.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Oh my god,
that one was terrible, man.
Yeah,
Andrew, you would have lost your shit, man. We picked up this one, and all you tasted was lighter fluid, man. I was sitting here thinking it tasted like they actually sprayed fluid on the fire while this thing was cooking. I had never tasted anything so terrible. I just couldn't believe. I couldn't believe it, man. It's like you pay this money, and you know, to go to a competition barbecue is not a business. Just so you will spend so much more money trying to win than you'll ever win when you do win. I mean, you win one, it might pay you back for 1.5 of the competitions you just
it's
did.
It's sort of like casinos in that respect.
Yeah, I guess so, a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You better be doing it for fun. That's the way I say it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, whenever I
think that there's a go ahead.
Whenever I think of lighter fluid, all I can think of is that scene in Vacation, you know, where Cousin Eddie's just sitting there spraying the thing with fire. And it's already a raging fire, and you're just like, it's the beginning of European Vacation where everybody walks over to it and puts lighter fluid on it all at the same time, and then
you're like, what are you doing?
I just don't want to get it, man. Like, I don't get it.
Man, I think anybody that uses lighter fluid just has not been educated on grilling and smoking in general. And there's just, I've gotten the question. I'm sure you have too on the retail side. Y'all don't have lighter fluid? Hell no, we don't have lighter fluid. We don't sell gasoline either. I mean, neither of these things are proper for food. Leave them at home, man. You want to do campfire? Okay, lighter fluid if you feel like it, but I hate the smell of it. I mean, you ever come back to your house and maybe you've been running some errands, you come back and it's
brutal.
Saturday afternoon and you smell some asshole is just really getting it. He is loading up that. I smell nothing. Hey, you know what's funny? I've programmed this in so well to my kid. She comes home and she's like, "Why does this smell funny?" I said, "That's lighter fluid, kid." She
It's
goes,
not even lighter fluid. They're not even. They're too lazy. It's like match light, dude.
Oh, even worse.
That's so brutal, dude.
Oh my God.
Well, you got
I mean,
nothing left when it's time to put food on.
Like, there are so many easy ways to build a fire, though. Like,
Yes.
on one end, get a nice torch.
Torches are wonderful.
Get a little fire starter. Something all natural, like nothing, no chemicals or anything like that. Or even, I mean, sometimes when I run out, I mean, I'll just douse some olive oil on a paper towel and throw that.
That works
in.
great.
It works really good. So
if someone's cooking briquettes, kettle,
fire.
like a kettle, like and you're cooking that way, and you want to use briquettes, get a chimney, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Light that thing with a fire starter underneath it. Just let it sit, do its thing, and then boom, pour it out. Same time as lighter fluid. I mean, same time.
Yeah.
You don't
lighter
even
fluid
if you're gonna
almost doesn't go as fast. I think it creates a lot of fire around it, but it still has to get hot. I mean, a torch or a chimney, you're gonna do it faster and better. There's no need for it, man. I know we carried that natural lighter fluid for a good amount of time, and it was all right. I just even that I don't get it. Lighter cubes of some sort, or like Petzl said, even a newspaper or paper towel with a little bit of oil on it. Put that underneath your chimney, light it up, let it go. It just makes it burn longer, and you'll get a little bit more heat in there. And once that coal goes, let it go. You're set.
it'll light itself.
Yeah, I mean patience. Go ahead.
I think one of the things is like I said about the ribs and stuff is stuff that you're taught and you're watched as a kid and growing up. You're like, man, my dad used to just on that flame, and you're like, hey, that's how you do this.
It was cool, man. It was flames going everywhere. It was fun.
And so, I know when I first started like doing it on my own, it was like, okay, I gotta have lighter fluid because that's what Pops did. He always had lighter fluid. He always sprayed it on there. So you're like, okay, but then as you grow up and you kind of go out on your own, you're
learn your own ways.
Right. You're like,
that's
okay.
That's the case. Like Brian's talking about, you smell your neighborhood. Like those are olfactory hues from like going to your grandfather's house when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like his backyard smelled like lighter fluid. Because why? Because they came out with this stuff that lit your charcoal faster, and they were like, "This stuff's great." Like I mean, this is the and it's gone on forever. But that's what that smell reminds me of. It reminds me of like my grandfather's backyard. He cooked a good burger though.
I'll put it out there, man. I mean, in my early 20s, we use lighter fluid. I mean, I've done that before. I mean, hell, I probably used I probably used lighter fluid until I was in my late 20s. Even it was somebody just taught me other ways at some point in time, and I realized, holy crap, food doesn't have to taste like that, and it's amazing how much cleaner and better it tastes once you let that go.
Hey, I've got a very specific memory one time of singeing off the arm hairs on this arm and like most of this eyebrow with a little too much lighter fluid. And
it is fun though with lighter fluid though.
What's that?
I'm sure it is fun though to make those giant bursts of flame. I mean, I enjoy fire. I get it. I see why it's fun.
It's like it smells like a parking lot of a concert too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's those sensory memories coming around.
Olfactory hues.
I love it. All right, let's see if we've got a few questions coming in.
Well, and what I was going to say too, is like, I mean, I've noticed some new names in the chat, new names watching us right now. Hit us with a comment. Just let us know who you are. If you're local to Dallas-Fort Worth or you found us otherwise, if you're a customer or not, like, just send us a message and let us know who you are. We're glad you joined us. But like I said, I've seen a lot of familiar names, but there's also some new names here. So just shoot us a quick message in the chat and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you like to cook, what you like to cook on, whatever you want.
Yeah, and we've got Grillmaster 59 joining us tonight, PG Andrew, Tilo Jones Barbecue, Senor Dane, PG Austin. Let's see.
Rick Eats is back with us, our guest last
All
week.
right. Yep. WS Smitty Barbecue. Roscoe Pico Train is back in the house. I just love saying that one. Rick Eats, good to see you. Always. He said he's good at messing up some ribs. His family loves him though. I assume what Rick is telling you there is that he overcooks them, and the family loves the overcooked ribs. I find that the general populace likes the overcooked rib overcooked, but I mean they're not going to go bad, man. I mean if you can just pull that bone right out and then we just start rocking on it, why not?
We got Barry's 4748 back with us again.
Nice. Good to see you, Barry's.
Few y'all are working your way towards like VIP status. Barry's 4748, Gusman, Texas. There's some of them that are with us every week. So
glad to have you guys. Thanks for chiming in.
We got F. Salamino with us. I may or may not have burned my hand on his smoker about this time last year. It was a rookie mistake.
Do tell.
Yeah.
Floyd.
I needed a little more.
You,
I needed to get a little more airflow, and I didn't realize it was going to be so hot when I went to open it up. So
hey, there's a reason that we all have hands of leather at this point in time.
Yeah.
I mean, I get comments about grabbing stuff out of the oven without oven mitts sometimes, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's just gonna be quick. It's all right." Good stuff. Well, as far as ribs go, man, I feel like that. It's a spare rib. It's cooked long enough. You use your 3-2-1, but adapt that to your smoker. I mean, me personally, I've got a few different ones that I'll cook on. This weekend we cooked on the Marshall from the Goodwin Smokers.
All right,
that's my pit smoker.
I've got to go find the picture. I'm going to get it queued up because they did look really pretty, even though it was only a couple hours in. So yeah, just keep talking. I'm going to get it queued up and
So we were able to peg that thing out really nicely. Now the Marshall operates best between about 250 and 275 on the dial, no matter what you're cooking for the most part. We pegged it in about 260 most of the day. It dropped to 250 a couple of times as we're opening and changing things out. But that's one of those set and forget smokers. Once you put it on, you peg it where it needs to be. Just leave it alone, let it happen, sit down, drink your beer, and enjoy your day. Get a little sun and have fun. If I'm cooking on my egg, I'm doing things a little bit differently. I'm dropping the temperature a little bit. I'm operating between 225 and 250, and time is not really changing a whole lot. The egg tends to cook a little bit faster than my pit smoker. If I'm cooking on my pellet smoker, I'm operating more like my pit smoker in that case. But again, I'm still pegging out around 250, and times are not changing much. None of the testing methods are changing at all. It's just a matter of really just a different cooking vessel. Some people grill ribs. Personally, I can't tell you a whole lot about grilling ribs because I don't grill ribs. I think if you've got a smoker, grilling ribs is kind of a futile effort. Why go that route? If you've got a smoker, you smoke them. If you've got a grill, you try to figure a workaround, and you can make that work. It's just a matter of, can you get some indirect heat, because it does need indirect heat. If you're going direct heat all throughout the process, you're going to overcook those things and not going to be as tender as you want them to be. So we won't talk too much about gas grilling ribs at this point in time, because that's really just a workaround, and there's workaround on just about everything. Let's see.
So one of the things, a question I had before, learning about all this stuff is, you were taught to use barbecue sauce on top of your ribs. But then I learned from Chad, he made this concoction of like peach jelly with butter and and he would just slather that on there. What do y'all prefer when you're finishing up? Do y'all do a barbecue sauce, or you like to make your own kind of little concoction?
You want to take that one first, Andrew?
Yeah, I like I do like barbecue sauce. I like Meat Mitch Womp sauce, actually. That's my jams. And then some honey. So I just will take a little bit of barbecue sauce and then some honey, add that in there, and then warm it up, slowly. I'll just usually put it in the smoker, and let it just kind of warm up. And once I we were talking earlier, Mike, I don't know if you came on while I was saying it, but like if I go 2-2 or 2-1-1, usually in that last like 30 minutes before I'm going to glaze, I'll just put that sauce in there, stir it up, and then throw it on the smoker and let it warm up. And then like with about 15 minutes to pull it, I'll usually glaze them up maybe once or twice. But honey and womp sauce, I think it just makes they're pretty good. I mean, sometimes I just don't put any sauce on them, and I'm like, if you want sauce, here's the sauce. But if I'm gonna glaze, it's honey and barbecue sauce.
Yeah, I'm not too far off from that, and the barbecue sauce can vary. I'll use Three Little Pigs competition sauce a lot of times. I also like not womp sauce, but the char bar out of Meat Mitch. I like that one as well. Even a couple of suckle busters like the peach and the original. There's a few good sauces there, but to me those are kind of a base. And I'm putting a few tablespoons of butter in there and some honey, and that's basically it. And maybe on occasion I'll mix a little bit of the rub in there, and I get it all melted out, and then I brush it on the ribs, and I'm cooking it completely on the ribs to where it's sticky, but it's not runny coming off of the smoker. So unless I'm doing a straight dry rib, which I did do a little of this weekend, intentionally not wanting any sauce on there, which is a great flavor, by the way. Go for it sometimes. You just need to have a really good rub and cook it right. Otherwise, for me, it's barbecue sauce, butter, and honey.
Cool.
Let me ask you this. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead on that. Well, I was going to say, if you're wrapping, that's a great time to add this stuff in. So let's talk about that for a minute, especially on foil. If you're going to wrap with foil, and really the same thing, I guess, with butcher paper, it's a great idea if you're going to go ahead and wrap. At that point, go ahead and put your sauce and maybe it's brown sugar, maybe it's honey, maybe it's butter, whatever. Put that in the wrap, and then take your ribs and turn them upside down to where the top of the ribs is sitting on that stuff. Then wrap them up, throw them back on the smoker. That's a great time for that to just get melded all inside of that thing. So you can also put it on early. Again, there's no rules here, but a lot of people will go that route. So it spends a lot of time hanging out in that sauce, just letting it get hot and drip all over the thing. So you can go that route as well.
Let me ask you guys this, because this is like an issue, and this isn't like any prepared question or anything like that. I'm just thinking about this after last night. I have like very sharp knives, so it's not a sharp knife problem. But sometimes when you guys are cutting your ribs, do you do it like meat down and cut off around the back, or do you try to cut them from the top?
I think it comes back to our question about baby backs versus spares, honestly. If I've got baby backs, I almost always flip them over, because you don't know what you're going to get out of that bone structure. And I'm not interested in tearing up my shuns. I'm not interested in tearing up my whooshed off knives, man. And it is not a knife problem, man. It's a where the hell is that bone problem? And it's not just the straight bone. It's also those little jagged bones at the end, the little knuckles that like to stick over there. And you think you've got a clean cut, and yet there's some bone just hanging out over there. And why is it even there? But it's there. And you don't have that problem on spares. Spares are there, and that's it. And once you cut off that extra, what do they call it, the brisket, which is confusing, but cut that off, that's a clean cut.
But I feel like I'm wrecking the bark, and that's what I'm saying. Like, and I know I have sharp knives, so like, for some, why am I not getting? Am I putting too much rub on? Do you think is that the issue? Like, I mean, it's literally getting.
Oh,
to
you're
the point
saying
where
like it's got a layer on the top and it's
like it
too
doesn't even
toughy
want
for
to
the knife
break
to start.
through. Yeah, it's like it
Yeah.
doesn't even want to break through, and I'm like, and it's like rips the, it rips
Cutting
it.
from the bottom can fix that. It's kind of like when you got a pizza. You think, and not you can flip your pizza over, but when you get a pizza and it's really crisp at the bottom, you cut it and it's like, and you get through that crust. It's the same type of thing. If you flip that thing over, it does get a cleaner cut if you're having that issue. What you risk is messing up the look of the top. Yeah, the glaze may look beautiful, but if it's not a competition, who cares, man? Do it like that, make it look prettier. If it's a competition, that's one of those things where you're like, do we do it or not? But I'll be honest, we've turned in ribs at the Royal by flipping them over and cutting them. Because the cut and that being perfect was more important than the top of it, which we could resauce before we turn in. So
are they using electric or just a regular knife?
Not on ribs. I've seen it on brisket a lot, but not on ribs. No, I haven't seen that much.
So I finally found the picture, and unfortunately though, y'all won't be able to see it, you guys on the call. It will get broadcast out. But yeah, so we had 3 racks of ribs on the Marshall, and we also had. I see so many people talking about smoking Cheez-Its, and we were like, all right, we got to try it. So you can see that underneath it, and they were in the picture. Yeah. So on the left,
they were pretty good.
It was what, Gospel, and those were the dry ones, right?
At this point, they're all dry.
They're all dry at this point, but in the end, too. Yeah.
Yeah, we stayed with Gospel and with Voodoo. We stayed dry.
Yeah, and then we had the Spiceology Honey Habanero. What do we mix with that? Hardcore Carnivore Red.
Yep, that's the one when we mix Spiceology and Hardcore Carnivore Red.
And so,
those are good.
This picture is about 2, maybe 3 hours in. I mean, they're looking nice. Some really, really nice color on them all. And so so that's the photo of the ribs on the Marshall. That was
and we didn't even.
Awesome. It was tasty.
This wasn't even the wrap point. We kept going a little longer here. I think that was the only reason we took that picture is because we were doing those Cheez-Its and we thought, hey, perfect time for a picture. Because normally those would have stayed wrapped up, or not wrapped up, but closed up for another hour or so. And they came out great. And they were bite off the bone, but also they were able to shred up later. When we were done, we ate all we could. I mean, there's 3 of us trying to eat 3 racks of ribs, and I don't eat like that anymore. So I just shredded them all off the bone, man. And we have stuff for tacos and fajitas. I mean, rib meat shredded up is a great leftover item, man. I don't ever leave it on the ribs. I like to, if we don't eat it, I shred it off the ribs. I throw it in a vacuum pack, put it away for a little while, and man, that makes for some great, like some rib meat tacos later, quesadillas, you name it. It's a great reuse. Let's see. Roscoe liked them. Roscoe, you should come over and have some. You're not far away.
If I'd only shared the picture of the New York strip on the grill grates before and after we sliced it, I mean that was pretty,
man.
With the Falk salt on top.
You don't think I'd be able to share it from my stuff, do you? I can share a photo. Give me a second.
Might be able to. We'll see. I'll keep an eye on what it looks like broadcasting out.
All right, I'm going to go off the broadcast just a second. All right, I'll be back.
It's good. Search his pictures.
Yeah. Be careful which picture you pick.
That's fun. We all got jokes, huh? We got jokes.
Yeah, I don't want to see any of that.
I don't know. You might.
Nope. Good.
Yeah. And I'm gonna call you out on that picture though, Jason. That didn't look like y'all were smoking Cheez-Its. It looked like you were smoking goldfish.
Oh, goldfish. Yeah, yeah. He didn't have Cheez-Its. He always has
Yeah.
Cheez-Its.
It's a ham, no burger, peanut butter, no jelly.
Yeah.
No Cheez-Its.
Yeah, you never got two things to go together.
That's it. Damn.
Oh,
Well,
man, hold on.
He's not gonna find it.
yeah. I mean, it would be
Oh,
better. It was.
I've
I
got it.
texted it to you actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping I could just pull up multiples, but I'm just gonna have to. I'm gonna have to make do. I got this. Hold on.
All you people out there,
They're like,
the
what?
suspense is palpable, huh? It's really worth it. But if you can't find it, I've got. Ah, there we go. There we go.
There's the steak.
There we go. That bad boy came out good.
They can't
Wait,
see
what's
it.
happened?
I was afraid of that. They can't see.
They can't see it.
Nah,
Oh,
I was afraid of that.
I can't
So
share screen. I can't share screen, huh?
Yep, that's what I was afraid of. But don't worry, folks. I got you. I'm gonna fix it here. Let me cut it down a little bit. Hey, we're trying things on the fly, you know.
So happy barbecue.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna let you take that. You're better versed on this part.
Okay, wants to know what's the best brand of ribs? Well, I mean, if you're getting them at, I mean, Smithfield's great for what they do. I don't necessarily know how much Smithfield ribs you're going to be getting anytime soon. But I think that if you don't mind spending a little bit of money, a little bit extra money on them, obviously depending on your budget, some Compart Duroc ribs are, in my opinion, the way to go. And I would say you can get them at Local Yokel has them, Deep Cuts has them, and Deep Cuts is in Dallas, Local Yokel's in McKinney. Pretty amazing stuff. It's like, it's in my opinion, it's like, how do you compare like Wagyu to prime, right? So
yeah, it's just different, man.
It's a big step.
It's higher grade. It's better. It's harder to raise. It takes more money to raise. It's going to cost you more, but from time to time, it's worth it.
And I say this, like, I'm not opposed to going to Kroger when they got ribs on sale for $1.99 and walking out with, like, walking out to the car with a couple of racks, walking back in, getting a couple more racks, walking out, like, but if you're gonna, like, if you're cooking just for, like, if it's special or, whatever, if you just feel like throwing down on a good rack of ribs, 100%, any Compart Duroc you can get, those are the way to go.
Fully agree with that. I can't argue that for 1 second. I need to disagree with you a little bit more tonight, Andrew. We're agreeing way too much.
No, but I think that's good.
It's not much of a debate
enough.
here.
We disagree enough other times.
Good Lord. Yeah. Oh, man.
You're one of my favorite guys to disagree with.
Let's just ride with it. Like, come on, y'all.
But Happy Barbecue 71 says I'm in Fort Worth.
Oh, man,
getting along. He's saying that I'm in Fort Worth, so that's a bit far off. I have to say,
who's out there?
I would say there's got to be someone around in Fort Worth. I'll almost guarantee it that's selling Compart Duroc ribs.
You're just gonna have to find a butcher.
Yeah, like a good butcher, a nice reputable butcher. You can find them. I bet Central Market, even if you go to South Lake, will sometimes have some Duroc ribs, or you could ask the butcher for them, and they're pretty good about getting stuff like that.
I'll tell you, there's a place over in Fort Worth off of Camp Bowie called the Meat Board. A lot of times they have stuff like that. They have a in-house butcher, so they usually carry that end of pork. Nice. So check them out.
Hopefully that'll help over there. Man, Smithfield, I'm going back and forth with now. I learned that China, not a Chinese company, China owns Smithfield. It just throws me off a little bit, man. I'm trying to spend American, much as I can here. I'm like, I can't buy my ribs at Kroger that say Smithfield on them. Come on, man. I mean, there's American factories. Don't get me wrong. I mean, so there's American workers there, but goodness, man, the whole country owns this packing plant. Come on, man.
I mean, it's a big old company too. That was like one of the largest when they bought it. I think it was like one of the largest foreign owned company, takeovers of an American company.
Yeah, that's massive.
Which, I mean, I don't, like, nah. I just only buy, like I said, like if you're gonna get them, you're getting them at the right price, and you're buying a bunch. I totally get it, but I'm thinking in terms of just to have a rack of ribs or a couple racks of ribs, like just save up and buy some really good ones, and you'll always be happy. I mean, because you have all of them are like that, I think. Tyson's another pork producer, so I don't know. They do chicken and pork. I don't know who owns them. So
who knows? I'm sure it's part of another gigantic GMO piss everybody off kind of situation. But I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, look, this is what we do with our meat production these days. Unfortunately, I do think that one of the nice things is there are a lot of farms or ranches, I guess I should say. There's a lot of ranches these days that are going farm to table darn near, or at the very least they're selling to places like us, so we can get that good quality stuff. I mean, that is one of the nice things about specialty retailers is that we can bring in stuff like that because I don't have to bring in enough to stock 85 stores across DFW, so we can bring in things like that are great and they support local, and we'll do our darndest to do that. I mean, we try to support local everywhere we can. That's why you see so many Texas rubs, Texas sauces, Texas grills wherever we can. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of people produce grills in Texas, but we do whatever we can to keep it local as we can and American as we can. And when it comes to meat, do your research, man, because it's all over the place. But there's plenty of local farms, and you can grab whatever you need to get. Or just come to Premier Grilling. We got you.
Yeah.
Got some Wagyu Excellente. That is a Texas product right there. Got Wagyu Excellente. We've got stuff that comes from all over the country, with our other expanded meats for the choice side of things. Come and check it out. There's great stuff in there.
Yeah. So, just want to thank everybody. We still got a lot of folks hanging with us. So want to thank y'all for joining us. I'm just going to remind you here, real quick plug, to text PG Live to 41411. You'll get exclusive discounts. You can do that in the stores or online. It's for fuel, so charcoal, lump charcoal, pellets. It's for rubs, it's sauces, it's accessories. 10% off. Just text 41411 or text PG Live to 41411. We'll take care of you.